SMART24, driving business.
Hello there, and a very warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching 24 TV. This is Financial Markets. It's, of course, a Wednesday, and it's the Wednesday edition of the Financial Markets. My name is Anthony Sabali, of course, bringing you this live from Plot 42, Nile Avenue, Kampala. Remember to catch us live every morning at 10 a.m. as we give you updates on the current market information across Africa, in particular here within East Africa, but also we go overboard and get to other countries like in the Wall Street and New York and the like. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. That's at SMART24 TV now. That's our handle there. You can also follow me at my personal handle at Anthony Sebale there at Twitter. Remember also to catch the show on our YouTube platform. That is at SMART24 TV Live. That is exactly where you can get all the latest information concerning financial markets and concerning business in general. Remember also the show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, your number one private stock exchange. With Altex, you can be able to trade in securities such as the fixed income securities. And now with the Zabu initiative, you can simply dial *292# to get to experience the magic at Altex East Africa. Altex says that you can do something new by being able to save money and invest in the treasury bond market. That is at the Altex platform. Now, when you dial *292#, you will not only be able to trade or buy and sell, but you will also learn more about the products. If you want to learn more about how the trading really goes down and exactly what is involved in these products, how you get your return, you can also still dial *292#. Altex East Africa is saying you can do something new. Well, let's start off with the exchange here in Uganda at the Uganda Securities Exchange on Tuesday. By the end of Tuesday, we had 4 listings participating in the trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange, which is the principal stock exchange of Uganda. Now, also likewise, we had just 2 gainers on the day's trading and 7 losers on the other hand. Now, the trading was quite interesting on Tuesday. We had one stock in particular that was quite interesting, that, like I'm going to, of course, get to mention later on. But Stanbic Bank Uganda, you must know that yesterday they traded at least over 83 million shares, above 83 million shares, which is one of their biggest volumes. Not quite the biggest. I think we've seen a little bit more in the recent past, but this was their biggest volume, at least as far as I can remember, in the last 1 month. And yes, Stanbic, of course, is a company there that is the most traded on stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange, one of the most successful banking institutions in Uganda, and continues to be, of course, one of the biggest bank by assets. Traders, of course, were feeling quite positive after also the company released the notice of their annual general meeting, which is going to be going down very soon in the month of June. So definitely that could have also been one of the driving factors to see such huge volumes that were traded at Stanbic Bank Uganda. But like I mentioned, the day ended with 2 gainers, and MTN had a good day with a total addition of at least 0.19% on their stock value, closing off at a price of 165.31 Ugandan shillings. This was the first gain of MTN this particular week, as we, of course, started the week with a very negative note at MTN Uganda, which lost quite some good amount of value at the beginning of the week on Monday, and also on, if you remember, last Friday and Thursday, ending the week, MTN wasn't in the good books. But so far, so good for MTN Uganda on the 3rd day of trading, as we opened, of course, for another new day. Centum Investments also added 0.14% of value to their shareholder after appreciating in price and closing at 220.84 Ugandan shillings. Now, on the losing side, we had a number of stocks that really brought down, especially the all-share index. That is the benchmark performance indicator for all the 18 listings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, these were, first of all, KCB Group at the bottom, losing at least 31.69% of value on the exchange, closing at 773.21 Ugandan shillings. Women Limited also, this time around, really had a little bit of decline at a 4.33% decline in price, or depreciation in price, closing off the day with 420 Ugandan shillings. This is the first time Wumeme is losing after a very, very long time of gains on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Currently, the stock is at 420 Ugandan shillings per share. Let's see if the market capitalization was actually that much affected. The market capitalization now is maintained at 682 billion Ugandan shillings, at least about 3.86% of the Uganda Securities Exchange equities market, which is quite fair. I could say, in my own point of view, it is still quite fair. There's nothing really to be scared about, or if the stock is going down, I doubt so. Definitely, this is a very resilient stock. It has built a very big status on the exchange and can hardly be brought down right now. But just for your information, yesterday, Wumeme Limited dropped off at least 4.33%. That is about 19 shillings to 420 Ugandan shillings per share, which is quite significant if we put it in terms of, the monetary value that was lost, but still not quite scaring as yet. Wumeme traded just 1,300 shares for Tuesday, and this closed off at least 1.3 million Ugandan shillings in terms of the turnover on the market. Current market price at 420 is signifying a 1 week loss of still 4.55%. Again, this is closely similar to what was lost yesterday, because in the last 1 week, the stock hasn't been that volatile. There haven't been that big strides in terms of the increase in price. However, this decline, of course, did affect the weekly performance of the stock. In monthly performances, the stock is still at an appreciation of 4.77%. And in 3 months, the stock is still in appreciation of at least 40%. And in the last 6 months, at least 110% is the improvement the stock price has seen on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Wumeme also currently, before we get away from Wumeme, is still in the second position in as far as trading is concerned. In the last 3 months, we are now counting about 24.3 million shares that were traded at Wumeme, valued at 8.86 billion Ugandan shillings in the period, which is, by the way, the biggest turnover on the market in that particular period. Away from Wumeme, also the Equity Bank Limited stock dropped off 3.88%, down to a price of 1,106.99 Ugandan shillings, whereas the East African Breweries Limited also lost at least 1.34%, down to a price of 3,804.98 Ugandan shillings. NMG, that is Nation Media Group, dropped off 0.72%, down to at least 442.22 Ugandan shillings per share. And Jubilee Holdings Limited stock at least also dropped off 0.11%, closing off at a price of 4,883 Ugandan shillings per share. And that is a summary there from the trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange. But let's get to look at the interesting part. Like I promised, Stanbic Bank is something to reckon currently on the exchange. Now, let's just see how impactful Stanbic Bank was yesterday. First of all, the stock had at least 83.2 million shares traded in total. That was on Tuesday. And the current market capitalization is still maintained at 1.33 trillion. implying that their stock price did not actually change. So shareholders were comfortable buying at this particular price. And the current price we are talking about at Stanbic is 26.0 Ugandan shillings per share. Now, where has the stock come from? When you look at the recent few weeks, in 1 week performances, the stock has gained at least 3.96%. And in the last 4 weeks, at least 13% has been accrued on the stock's price. Now, this shows you how the stock is actually improving in the long run. Shareholders are highly optimistic because in the last 4 weeks, like I mentioned, the performance at 13% increase is the best so far. As far as comparing with all the other listed stocks, both cross listings and the domestic listings, the stock of Stanbic Bank Uganda has appreciated the best in the last 1 month. All right. Now, in the last 3 months, they have also improved at least 23.8%. Now, this is a relatively small price shift. But you see, when we're talking about trading, we don't usually want to just focus on the price movement. We want to look at how that would imply, what implications would it have on every shareholder in the company? Because yes, maybe the stock has risen from 21 shillings to 26. That's just 5 shillings. But let's get to put that in perspective. If someone is holding, let's say 2 billion worth of stock with Stanbic, which is quite possible because we have a total of at least 51.2 billion shares valued at 1.32 trillion. A trillion is 1,000 billion. So someone can hold 2 billion. A matter of fact, what was traded on Tuesday was 2.16 billion Ugandan shillings from a stock that really trades as low as 26 shillings. Now, putting that in perspective, you see the slightest movement in price can really create huge impacts when we sum it all up. When we look at the bigger picture, when you look at the big investment, you get to see all these small movements contributing very huge gains, especially to these shareholders with quite a number of shares. That's why I want you to grow your portfolio. I want you to look back. How did you start the year? How are you doing right now? Are you trying to improve your portfolio? Are you trying to add value to your portfolio? Because this is how you grow when you're investing. It's not a one-off. It's a process. And this is a journey you take. It's not something you're going to do once in a while. So when we talk about the percentages, in terms of the movements, we want to see how every shareholder is affected. The one with 10 shares, the one with 1 billion shares, with the one with 100 shares, how are they affected? And that's why we get to put them in percentages. So we are talking about a stock that has gained at least 23.8% in the past 1 quarter. That is the past 3 months, right? Now, yesterday, Stanbic Bank had at least over 83.2 million shares. That's a stock trading at 26 shillings, all right? Quite affordable. I mean, if you have 26,000, that's already 1,000 shares. If you have 260,000, you have over 10,000 shares. If you have 26 million, you have a million shares, and so on and so forth. And the story line goes on and on. So it is not about the amount of money. It's about, the movement in as far as the percentages is concerned, because that gives you the picture of how every shareholder is catered for, how every shareholder is affected by this particular movement. Now, let's see. Stanbic Bank Uganda yesterday also got to issue a notice to their shareholders that they would be, of course, holding their annual general meeting very soon, and were, of course, inviting their shareholders. And I want to just give you a snippet into this particular notice that was issued yesterday on the Uganda Securities Exchange. So we know what's going on, or what's yet to be going on, what's going to be going on at the Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, according to the notice hereby given that the annual general meeting of Stanbic Bank Uganda Holdings of the financial year ended December 31st, 2022, will be held as a hybrid meeting that is comprising of the physical meeting, and the physical meeting is going to be happening at Victoria Hall in Kampala, the Rena Hotel. That's where we're going to be having it, and via electronic media on Friday, the 2nd of June, 2023. This is the information we have from the company that was issuing their notice there to their shareholders. Now, furthermore, we get to look at what the agenda looks like. The ordinary business, of course, is first of all consider and, if deemed fit, pass an ordinary resolution to receive and adopt the annual audited financial statements for the year ended 31st of December 2022, including the reports of the directors and external auditors. To also consider, if deemed fit, and also pass an ordinary resolution to receive and, of course, adopt the recommendation of the directors for the dividend payment of the year 2021, rather 2022. Now, what dividend are we looking at here? This is where most of the shareholders' ears really get open. Now, according to the statement, in July 2022, shareholders were paid an interim dividend worth 50 billion Ugandan shillings last year in July. And they are saying that the board of directors this year recommended a final dividend of 3.61 Ugandan shillings per share, per ordinary share in this particular period. And this is going to total at least 185 billion, given the 51.4 billion shares that are currently on the Stanbic stock. And this is to be paid for the year ended 31st December, and of course, subject to withholding tax deductions where applicable. Now, the dividend has almost quadrupled from 50 billion to over 185 billion. Wow, that is a wonderful performance. And no wonder we are seeing the movement we are seeing on the exchange. We would definitely have this trader, could be a single trader, buying over these 83 million shares. After seeing this dividend, of course, it could be quite exciting. But of course, that is some information for you to take home. And if you're a shareholder with Stanbic, please take note. Your annual general meeting is going to be happening on the 2nd of June this year at Kampala Serena Hotel in Victoria Hall. That's where you're going to be discussing more about the audited fiscal results of last year, and of course the way forward, and approve a dividend that was recommended by the board of directors, and of course electing a new board of directors as well for the company. Very huge roles there for the shareholder. Now, away from Stanbic Bank Uganda, MTN traded 30,700 shares and Wumeme 3,100 shares, but also Bank of Baroda came out with at least 50 shares traded on Tuesday. Now, in aggregate, the market moved positively, of course, due to Stanbic Bank's Uganda movement. And this was at 152% improvement in the volume and 149% improvement in the turnover. Now, currently, the market capitalization of Uganda Securities Exchange is at 17.7 trillion Ugandan shillings. In as far as the benchmark index performance was concerned, that is the all-share index, it declined slightly, at least 16.92 points downwards on Tuesday, and closed at 1,028.41 points on the exchange, representing a one-week loss of 5.75% and a four-week loss of 8.91% on the exchange. The local company index decreased by 0.33% to a tune of 272.58 points, consequent of losses from especially stocks that declined, like the Wumeme stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange. That's it, my friend, from the Uganda Securities Exchange, and you can check out more on our website at www.SMART24TV to learn more and also get to know how you can invest at the Uganda Securities Exchange. Let's cross over to Nairobi and have a look at what seemingly is one of the busiest and biggest stock exchanges in East Africa, and of course in Africa at large. The aggregate at least performance had 48 Nairobi Securities Exchange listings perform their trade on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with the day ending with 18 gainers and 22 losers. Safaricom led the gainers at a 10% share price improvement, up to a price of 14.30 Kenyan shillings. Quite good news, right? For Safaricom traders there. It's a quite relieving day for you. Finally, Safaricom is back to the gaining side, and definitely we would expect a lot of congratulatory remarks from the audience out here, because Safaricom stock has really suffered in the past few weeks and months as well. Safaricom Limited currently trades at 14.30 Kenyan shillings after appreciating 1.30 Kenyan shillings yesterday, and trading a volume of 1.22 million shares valued at 17.4 million Kenyan shillings. The stock currently, when you look at their weekly performance, however, is still on a weekly loss of 8.33%, a monthly loss of at least 19.7%, and a quarterly loss of 39.8% on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. In as far as other stocks, Total Kenya appreciated 8.44%, and KCB Group at least appreciated 7.59%, whereas the Wutumi Supermarket added at least 5.56% on the second day of trading. On the losing side, however, the Unga Group came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of at least over 10% at 18.90 Kenyan shillings, closing prices on the market. And Diamond Trust Bank at least lost 8.63%, whereas the Express Kenya company lost 7.87%, and the Kakuzi Group lost 7% of their value. Now, the biggest trader, to your surprise, will be Equity Group Holdings. Yes, Equity had the biggest share, at least 1.69 million shares, followed by Cooperative Bank of Kenya at least over 1.29 million, and Safaricom in the third place at 1.22 million shares that were traded. Kenya Power and Lighting Company came in the fourth position at least 400,000 shares that were recorded. Regarding the performance of the NSE market indices, consequent of the performance of stocks like Safaricom, the index soared at least 3.78 points upwards, up to at least 96.82 points closing of the Tuesday trading. And the NSE 25 and the NSE 20, tracking the top 25 and top 20 companies, appreciated as well, with the NSE 25 going up at least to a tune of 2.49%, and the NSE 20 at least going up by a tune of 0.47%. That's the trading, quite improved trade there. However, the declines were witnessed on the volumes. The volume were a little bit contracted, and the turnovers were contracted by 69%, as investors continue to digest more of Safaricom's performance on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And that's the trading, my friend. From Nairobi, allow me, as of course our time is fast spent, to get to reach out to the United States and have a look at what's of course happening on the market, where yesterday Joe Biden met Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the Congress in the United States. Now, the stocks on Tuesday closed in a mixture of reactions during the midday trading, as investors digested fresh economic data for the month, and of course focused on the negotiations over the debt ceiling stalemate, with talks set to resume later on in the day. The S&P 500 edged downwards at least 0.8%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.51%, whereas the Nasdaq technology heavy composite at least gained 0.28% by 4:42 Eastern Time. The Wall Street is watching for signs of movement in the debt ceiling impasse, with the meeting between President Joe Biden and the Speaker of the Congress in the United States, Kevin McCarthy. That, of course, happened yesterday. The meeting comes after Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen sounded the alarm once again on Monday. If Congress has not raised or suspended the debt limit by early next month, She wrote in a letter that to the lawmakers that if this happened, if the United States government did not either raise or repeal the debt ceiling, it would cause severe hardship to American families, with U.S. potentially deporting as soon as 1st of June. Tuesday's meeting included Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, as well as Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, as well as the House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries as well. We'll follow up that story and more and bring it to you definitely tomorrow as we have a full report on the debt ceiling in the United States. That's it, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching SMART24 TV. You can catch more of your business here for the rest of the day. Remember to check out Altex East Africa and trade with Altex by simply dialing *292# and following the prompts. My name is Anthony. I wish you a very, very lovely day. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye for now.